Morning. So I wanted to do a video on a subject in that I travelled all the way to the tip of the Cape. And every time I sit down to do this video and do a bit of research, I keep coming across this Australian government ignoring our Constitution. Now, Babet, Senator Babet, Mr. Roundface. Should we call you Moonface like that guy from Channel 10? What was his name? I can't remember. We're looking at the Australian Parliament continuing to attack what it's not allowed to even legislate over. It keeps bringing it up in the Parliament, and it keeps trying to undermine the blessing of Almighty God in the Constitution. Now, Senator Babet put together a video called Under the Blessing of Almighty God. It's a distraction, isn't it, Babet? You're purposely trying to undermine everyone's understanding or comprehension of the anchor point at which they defined their realm. So we could look at this very clearly as a breach of the Constitution, Senator, at section 116, which says that you shall not legislate in regards to anything religion. Now, you to keep bringing this up in the Parliament obviously means that you're in breach of section 116 as a senator, Babet. So, what say ye about your breach of our very own rules, the Constitution? And what say ye about undermining that blessing of Almighty God, defined as an anchor point to a realm in a king's domain, which was already sealed at law? What say ye? What say ye to your actions at undermining our very country, Babet? I'm accusing you directly of attempting to undermine our Constitution, our Commonwealth of Australia, and the very country and ideals that we are. You're party to a very Nazi sort of regime in a Senate that passed a jibby-jabby and now want to backtrack on that jibby-jabby. You committed the offence by allowing it through. You committed the offence by being in cahoots with the Australian government, which is in no line of authority to the Father. You try and remove the Lord's Prayer from the Senate for years, Babet. Again, section 116. You've been directly trying to undermine God in the Constitution for years with your in cahoots buddies in the Senate, like Pauline Hanson. Right? You're all murderers for what you've done. You've murdered the Constitution as well as Australians. And now you keep trying to undermine what is a link to the Father, our fathers who art in heaven. Now, we will speak about this a bit more, Babet. But this is a very, very short video, because I believe that you should shut up about religion in the Parliament, because it's an act of treachery, according to law, against the very Constitution at section 116. Section 116, Babet. Maybe you should go and read the Constitution, seeing as you're a senator in it, right? Obligated to a line of authority defined under the blessing of Almighty God. Is that the reason you're trying to undermine it? Because none of you are linked to that Father. None of you are linked to that Father in a line of authority to hold any rule of law. And it's very obvious when Scummo proclaims rule of law all over the TV, and then Elbow follows from a different party, right? Different party. Rule of law all over the TV, Babet. It's very demonstrative of you being an administrative power outside of the Constitution under some sort of insolvency Under the Currency Act 1965, leading to the demise of the currency and the lowering of an Admiralty ensign 1st of March 1967. One could ask you, Babet, who do you work for? It's not in line of authority to the father. Who do you work for? Who do you work for? The Australian government is not in line of authority to the father. Would that be the reason why it has a big distress under the blessing of Almighty God, given that it doesn't have that blessing? That it doesn't have that blessing, Babet. So I'm going to ask you very, very, very clearly, why are you discussing religion in the Senate at all? Section 116 forbids you from bringing up religion in the Parliament. And the only reason you could want to do it is to undermine the Constitution and the very office that you sit in. Now, we caught the Governor-General out at trying to undermine his office in a referendum where he gave zero confidence in the people defining the changes to that Constitution in that referendum. And you've got Albo trying to undermine his office directly with a referendum. Now, if that referendum had passed, would he have an office? Would he have an office? If the Constitution relies on the blessing of Almighty God, defined by our forefathers, our fathers who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Anzac, hallowed be thy name, Australia, what makes them royal? You got a problem, Senator Babet, in that we're not going away. We're growing larger every day. And when you pass things like digital ID, it's no wonder you're trying to enslave Australians with your Nazi mates. Your Nazi mates in the Senate. In the Senate, who continually try to undermine the very Constitution in which they're supposed to uphold. Like Pauline Hanson, who ignored all the law, and when he used the evidence in the Senate, proving what we said, absolute proof that she committed an act of treason to the realm, Babet. Are you walking that fine line of treachery and treason to the realm by undermining the blessing of Almighty God?